Hey, how's it going, folks? This is going to be a follow-up video to my quest for all things Legacy, and this I'm going to cover my quest for the Power 9. So, uh, I'll go ahead and mention, as just like in the last video, I do not keep any of these cards displayed here in my home. I keep them in a safety deposit box at the bank. Just the value of them is just too high nowadays to keep in your home, and a theft or a fire or something could wipe you out, and I can't stomach the idea of either of those things happening. But in any case, so the um, the first thing I'll mention here is like I'll go ahead and go over these in the order that I got them. So the first piece of power that I got is this Mox Ruby. Now, as you can see, there's some damage here in the corner. It's kind of discolored, some scratches on the back, and it's definitely not in any kind of pristine condition, gradable condition in any way. I did pick this one up. This is a card. This was actually the prime card that was in my friend John's collection when I purchased it. I believe that happened somewhere around 2008. I'm going off of memory, and I'm not super sure. But yeah, he had a lot of really nice cards in his collection, and this Mox Ruby was the gem of the bunch. But when I got this, the idea of owning a full set of power was pretty foreign to me at that time. I didn't really have any aspirations to play vintage. Just too expensive of a format. I certainly had a very large collection of Magic cards at the time, but Legacy was the format that I always was aspiring towards. But getting a ruby, it wasn't going to leave my collection. It's not something that ever turned up in my trade binder or anything like that. I definitely was just hey, this is a really cool thing that I've got, and I'm just going to keep it forever. And that was my mindset. I wasn't really planning on getting any more pieces of power at that point. But what happened was a few years later. This is in 2009. So this was Zendikar release weekend. For those of you who remember, this was the time when the treasures were being opened, the hidden treasures of Zendikar pre-release. And I'd won a box of Zendikar at my local game store for pre-release weekend. And still had it sealed. At that point in my playing, I wasn't buying and cracking boxes anymore. I basically would purchase collections and trade into what I wanted. I no longer liked the idea of just buying sealed product and opening it. So whenever I got something like packs from Prize Support, I'd either keep them for playing in another sealed event later, with either playing sealed with my friends or just trading them into actual Magic cards, open singles and things like that, was usually what I would do with things like that. But in any case, I came across a guy who was just starting to get into Magic again. He had been an old school Magic player back in the early days, and when Zendikar came out in 2009, he decided he wanted to play Magic again. Guy's name was Ryan. I'm still friends with him. I haven't actually talked to him in quite a long time, but I'm friends with him on Facebook, and you still see what he's up to nowadays. But in any case, he had this Ancestral Recall in his collection, and at the time this was probably about a $300 card. As you can see, this is probably the nicest condition card I've gotten in as far as power is concerned. Signed by Mark Poole here. It was signed when I got it. Signatures aren't something I typically go out of my way to get. I did one time have an opportunity at a Grand Prix to have all my dual lands signed. I did have almost all of my dual lands signed at a Grand Prix once, but that's as far as I've ever really gone with signatures. It's not something I've ever gone out of my way to acquire, but you pick them up here and there. So in any case, I know I traded at the time to get this Ancestral Recall. I traded the box of Zendikar that I had won the previous weekend, as well as I believe he really wanted a playset of Misty Rainforests, which I had spent the whole the week before playing and training a lot of Magic cards, and had worked my way into a playset of Misty Rainforests, as well as a handful of other fetch lands, which were obviously enemy fetch lands were something that was really cool at the time and new. And so yeah, so I traded. I know, again, I don't remember the specifics on this trade, but I know it involved a box of sealed Zendikar, which was also a pre-release box. Keep in mind, so the possibility of opening hidden treasures, you could literally open a piece of power out of this box of cards. I know it wasn't super likely, but in my local town, I heard of, I believe somebody opened a jet, and I actually personally purchased a Underground Sea that somebody picked up out of a pack, and I myself, at the pre-release in one of my loose prize packs, I pulled a Tolarian Academy out of a pack of Zendikar. So yeah, that was a really cool event. Just an idea that Magic did. They basically went on the secondary market and bought a whole, kind of behind the scenes, bought a whole bunch of old cards and just reinserted them into packs of Zendikar specifically for the pre-release weekend. So you can't just go buy any box of Zendikar and have a shot at getting these, but the pre-release weekend ones, those are the ones that have a shot of still containing power, or any old dual land or a large number of cards that you could possibly get in those. But yeah, no, that was a really cool event. But when I got this Ancestral, it all of a sudden became like a real possibility for me, where I was like, I could work my way into a set of power. Like at the time, Vintage was something I was definitely interested in, but not really playing. And I at least wanted the option of my ideal goal was to get basically the mana drain style deck, just like to have a single mana drain style deck, and that basically meant having a full set of power. And so yeah, so when I got the Ancestral Recall, it kind of lit a fire for me to work towards the rest of the power. After that, I believe, and I don't remember the order I got these in, but over the course of a couple of pre-releases, I'm sorry, not pre-releases, Grand Prix, I traded into these 3 pieces of power. I believe I recall the one I remember the trade for is the Pearl. That one involved, I mentioned in a previous video, I had picked up a unlimited Underground Sea at a store for $15. That was probably in about '99, and I still had that at this time. This is probably we're probably talking about 2011, around that time frame. Is when I was working, like I said, 2009 is when I picked up the Ancestral, and over the course of the next few years is when I was working on getting the rest of the power. But yeah, this Mox Pearl I traded. I had a beta Birds of Paradise that went towards this card, as well as that Underground Sea. I believe there was one other reasonably high dollar card, maybe a Illusionary Mask or something along those lines that I traded towards this Pearl. I know the guy that had the Pearl also had a Sapphire, and when I began trading with him, I was like, "Ooh, I want that Sapphire. What do I got to do to get that Sapphire?" And after he picked out all the cards he was interested in my stuff, he's like, "Well, I can trade you this Pearl." And I'm like, "Oh my God, come on, you got to come off that Sapphire." But he wouldn't do it, and we ended up settling on getting the Pearl. So yeah, this has quite, I don't know, they probably won't show up on the camera here, but this has a lot of fairly unusual deep cuts, as far as markings on the card. It almost looks like somebody took an ink pen and on top of a sleeve and marked all over the card. I'm not sure how that got like that. And obviously it's a bit played, but it's a very nice clean Pearl. Let's see here, and I believe, I don't recall the trade for either the Walk specifically or the Emerald. I got those in around the same time. As you can see, this Walk has a lot of playware on the back. You can see a roller line here. If you look, let me see, I can kind of see it there, right across here. There's a second roller line across the upper part of the card as well, and across the front. That one's unlikely to show up on the camera. It's pretty hard to see. Looks like it is not going to, but it's got the standard unlimited roller lines going on all over it, and obviously it's got a significant amount of play wear, but it is a time walk. And then we've got our emerald. Again, this emerald I got, I think around the same. I think I actually got this at the same event, probably sitting at the same table as the pearl. I believe basically somebody was watching me make the pearl trade and went, you know what, I might be able to get you an emerald. And so I worked out a deal with somebody there. These cards I traded into all of the cards I've mentioned so far. Just out of cards in my collection. So it obviously can be done. I mean, there was the whole pack to power thing going back on in the early 2000s was kind of a big deal, and that's not certainly something I was working towards. But the ability to trade into Power 9 was definitely a thing you could do. Then the next card I acquired was this Sapphire. And the interesting about this Sapphire, and you can see here, it's a very heavily played Sapphire. It's also got the roller lines going across here. Let's see here. Can you see those on the front as well? Yeah, you can see the double roller lines going across the front on this card as well. And it's quite heavily played. But this, the interesting thing about this particular card is that I have an exact record of what I traded for this card. I acquired this off of the Magic Online Trading League, which is also known as Modal, in 2012. I'm going to go ahead and pull up. I've got the email chain from when I got this card. Excuse me, I'm starting to lose my voice. So it looks like the final deal on this particular card was for 2 Misdirections, 4 Scalding Tarns, 3 Stoneforge Mystics, 5 Lava Spikes, a Foil Delver of Secrets, a Windswept Heath. That would have been the original version, since at this point the reprints would not have existed. A playset of Force of Wills, a Polluted Delta, 8 Mother of Runes, and looks like a stack of unglued lands, 3 mountains, a plains, an island, a swamp, and 3 forests. And that's what it cost me for this Sapphire. So yeah, no, I was, which got me very close to my goal of having all the cards for your typical Mana Drain deck. At this point, I believe I also had kind of worked my way into a playset of Italian Mana Drains. I believe I know I got one of those. In the same trade, I got this Ancestral Recall for. He had an Italian Mana Drain, and I believe I got the other 3 in various trades off of Magic Online Trading League as well. These 2 cards here were the next ones I acquired, and I know I got these 2 both off of Stu Summers. Is very rare for me to actually buy singles, but at that point my trade stock was really getting pretty tapped out after working through getting the rest of this power here, and Stu had I believe this also was a trade I found through Magic Online Trading League. He had advertised that he had some power on there for sale. And I believe the arrangement we ended up coming to was, I believe the value of the jet at the time, this would have been around 2013, was about $300. And this Black Lotus, again, in pretty heavily played condition. This jet is in pretty nice shape. Not mint by any stretch, but pretty nice. This one's got some scratching and quite a bit of wear on it. And I believe we valued it at around $700 for a total. I know I paid $1,000 even for these 2 cards. And you can see there's also, I don't know if this will show up on the camera, but there is some indentation here on this corner there. Let me go ahead and pull it up so I can see. I don't know if that's going to show up Now it looks like that's not really going to show up on the camera, but there's some indentation on the corner here. I'm not sure where that came from, but obviously I'm sure it would have been that way when I got it. And at the time, that basically finished me out. The blue decks at the time, keep in mind, this is before Tibalt was a thing. I'm sorry, before what's is it Nahiri, the one that makes it so your opponents don't draw cards like normal? Leovold. So basically, those sort of cards weren't really a thing, and so the vintage, at least the blue decks, didn't play Time Twister as a regular card in the decks. This was more of a combo card, and combo is not something I usually play. So basically, getting the Time Twister wasn't something that was high on my priority. However, I got an opportunity a couple years later, probably somewhere in the 2014 area, 2015 area. My friend Jay was looking. He had spent a few years basically going to Gen Con, and every year he would buy another piece of power. And he wasn't really a Magic player anymore, but he had this aspiration to have a set of power. And at that time, this is at the time when Star City all of a sudden jumped their buy list on Black Lotus to $5,000 for a mint condition Black Lotus, which was just unheard of at the time. I mean, you're at your normal price for a Black Lotus for an average condition is probably like, maybe getting to $1,100 or $1,200 for a pretty nice condition Black Lotus, and all of a sudden Star City Games was offering $5,000 for Black Lotuses, and Jay looked at that and was like, I'm out. I can't finish this set. I just want to move it. So he came to me and he was like, hey, you've got a lot of more networking and a lot more feelers out for selling this sort of cards. And we came to an agreement. He actually offered to give me his Time Twister in exchange for me basically selling off what I could from his collection. So I sold, he had a Black Lotus and a Sapphire that I sold both of those cards for him. I believe we ended up getting, I think it was a little bit nicer of a condition Lotus than this one. I actually considered upgrading my Lotus to his. It wouldn't have been a big upgrade, but it was a little bit of an upgrade. I actually ended up selling that to Star City Games itself. They had offered me $3,000 for the card. I mailed it to them, and they came back and said, "Oh, these markings on this card are worse than we could see in the pictures, and we can give you $2,500 to send it back." And Jay decided to go ahead and just take the $2,500. And so I did what I could with that. And then the Sapphire, I believe I sold for $800 to a local dealer, Carter, if anybody knows who that is. Purchased that for $800. But then there was also another probably $1,000 worth of cards that I sold for him here and there, just pieced off. And then when everything was said and done, I also ended up just picking up the rest of whatever I couldn't sell. I just was like, hey, if you want, I can give you $500 for the rest of this stuff. Which was quite frankly, I mean, it ended up being a great deal for me. Obviously, anything you're buying in Magic cards, if you bought them anytime before 2017, was just compared to prices today, was just a phenomenal steal. But I know that particular set of cards included, I believe it was a play set of Antiquities. Mishra's Factories, the Four Seasons Mishra's Factories, as well as a library in really rough shape. I mean, I actually have 3 libraries at this point, which is more than I need. But I'm certainly not going to just give them away. But they're in pretty rough shape. I mean, you can see this Time Twister here is in super rough shape too, but I believe 2 of my libraries are in worse shape than this. One of them is in halfway decent shape, but not, maybe about the same level as this one. And then there was also a Mana Crypt in that pile. But in any case, I believe I paid him $500 for those cards, and this Time Twister was my commission for selling the rest of his cards. I probably he probably walked away with about $5,000. And I walked away with this time twister and as well as buying, the scraps of whatever I wasn't able to sell to anybody else. Um, and obviously, hindsight being, or knowing what I know now, obviously this time twister is a much bigger deal. Between Leovold and Narset, and the fact that EDH is really driving the price of Magic cards nowadays, as well as old school, and formats like that is driving the price of Magic nowadays. But that is that's the story behind how I collected my set of Power 9. If anybody else has any cool stories, feel free to share them. That I'm always interested in hearing other people's perspectives, and I hope you enjoyed this trek back through history, and hearing about how I got the most prize sought after cards in all of Magic. Anyway, go ahead and like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and hope to hear from you again in the future. And you guys have a good day. Hey, you guys are still here. Oh, well, how about some bonus content? So, this is a display mat that I actually designed back in about 2017. I made this on GIMP. My intention was to basically print this out in a large enough form to actually physically mount the cards on and keep as a display in my house. Obviously, that's not super practical anymore. The idea of having like a $30,000 just mounted on your wall is a little extreme, at least for me. And so, but I still would like to get this printed out. I won't. I'm gonna guess I put a lot of hours into actually designing and creating this. And it's something I really treasure, but I haven't actually ever printed up a copy of it. Maybe someday. Still, I'm not sure the best way to go about doing it. Possibly, I've talked to some friends, and somebody suggested even just going to Meyer and having them printed up. Obviously, it's not a copyrighted thing or anything, since I designed it myself. But in any case, no, this is just something that I made. I thought was really cool, and I thought you guys might also appreciate. I did also make a version of it that is just the Power 9, not including the two additional items. But my original intention was to include the twister in the library. I'm sorry, the library and the what's the other card that's on there? The Time Vault, which is quite usually considered Power 10, but it's definitely not the powerhouse that it used to be. Vintage is where that card is shined, and nowadays it's all about old school. And there certainly are some decks in old school that play Time Vault, but it's not the powerhouse that it was once in Vintage. But in any case, you've also got the library there, which is a pretty cool thing. But yeah, this is just something that I thought you guys might appreciate as a bonus content. I do really hope to have this printed out someday and mounted on my wall, even if it's just a poster. But yeah, like in any case, you guys have a good day.